The morning began as mornings do in wartime, with uncertainty hanging in the air like morning fog over a river. The year was 1940. And across Europe, the world was changing, borders shifting like sand, armies moving with terrible purpose across ancient landscapes. In a small corner of Belgium, near a village whose name would soon be remembered, a young soldier rose before dawn, just as he had done countless times before. His name was not yet known to history, his face unremarkable among thousands, his uniform the same drab wool as his brothers in arms, yet this day, this singular day, would carve his name into memory. He ate his breakfast slowly, perhaps porridge, perhaps bread, the kind of meal soldiers have eaten since time began, simple, filling, forgotten almost as soon as it is finished. Around him, the camp stirred with its familiar rhythms, the clink of metal on metal, the low murmur of men's voices, speaking of home, of sweethearts, of the spring that was coming, even as winter still lingered in the morning shadows. No one knew yet, not even him, that history was gathering itself, preparing to test one man's resolve, one man's courage, one man's willingness to stand when others could not. The officers gave their orders calmly, as officers do, measured words about positions, about defensive lines, about the importance of bridges, those ancient crossing points where civilizations have always met, in trade or in conflict. A bridge, such a simple thing, stones laid across water, or wood, or steel, connecting one shore to another, a place of passage, a threshold between here and there. This particular bridge, narrow and unremarkable, spanned a modest waterway, the kind of stream that children might play beside in peacetime, where mothers might wash clothes on summer afternoons, where the water ran clear and cold over smooth stones. But in war, a bridge becomes more than itself. It becomes a gateway, a choke point, a place where the fate of thousands might balance on who controls its length. The soldier checked his equipment with the practiced ease of repetition, ammunition counted, not weighed, water canteen full, rifle cleaned the night before, each action a small ritual, a prayer of preparation. He did not think himself a hero, not yet. Heroes exist in stories, in songs sung afterward, not in the quiet morning before anything has happened, when a man is simply a man, doing what he has been asked to do. The sun climbed higher, warming the earth slowly, patiently, as it had for millions of mornings before this one, and would for millions after. Somewhere in the distance, birds were singing, because birds always sing, war or no war, they sing for territory, for mates, for the simple joy of greeting the day. And in the soldier's mind, perhaps he thought of home, of a street where he grew up, of a door painted blue or green or brown, of a kitchen table where his mother served dinner, of the ordinary beauty of an ordinary life, waiting for him, somewhere beyond this moment, beyond this morning, beyond the bridge. The orders came, clear and simple: hold the position, delay the advance, buy time for the others to withdraw, to regroup, to survive, to fight another day. Simple orders, given calmly, received calmly, yet carrying the weight of everything that was about to unfold. And so, as the morning deepened into late morning, he took his position, checked his rifle once more, and waited, while somewhere in the distance, an army was coming, steady as a tide, inevitable as nightfall. And above him, the sky remained blue, and cloudless, and beautiful, as skies so often are, on days when history is made. The bridge stretched before him, perhaps 30 meters long, perhaps 40. Distances become strange when you must hold them alone. It was built of stone, old stone, quarried by hands long forgotten, fitted together by craftsmen whose names no one remembered, solid, enduring, the kind of bridge that could stand for centuries, if only the world would let it. Water flowed beneath, steady and indifferent, carrying leaves and small sticks, moving from somewhere to elsewhere, as water always does, patient, eternal, caring nothing for the concerns of men. On either bank, trees stood sentinel, their branches just beginning to show the first hints of spring green, that pale, fragile color that speaks of renewal, of life returning after winter's sleep. The soldier positioned himself carefully, not in the open, not completely hidden, but in that careful balance soldiers learn, where you can see, and shoot, and perhaps, if fortune smiles, survive. His breathing steadied, in and out, in and out, the same breath he had taken every day of his life, yet somehow different now, more precious, more noticed, each inhalation a gift, each exhalation a surrender. The waiting stretched, as waiting does in war, time becoming elastic, malleable, minutes feeling like hours, hours compressing into heartbeats. He thought perhaps of nothing, or perhaps of everything. The mind wanders when the body must remain still, drifting like clouds across an internal sky, touching memories, possibilities, fears that must be acknowledged, then released. Somewhere, his commanders were moving the main force back, creating distance, space, buying time with time, that strange currency of war where seconds and minutes become more valuable than gold, more precious than jewels. The bridge beneath him was cool, solid, real. He could feel its presence, its weight, its permanence, even as he knew that permanence was an illusion. Everything changes, everything passes, even bridges, even stones. In the distance now, a sound, faint at first, like thunder on a far horizon, but growing, deepening, becoming more defined, the sound of many feet, many vehicles, many men moving with purpose, coming closer, always closer. He checked his rifle again, though it needed no checking, the gesture a comfort, a familiar motion in an unfamiliar moment, hands knowing their task, even when the mind struggles to comprehend. The sound grew louder, clearer, voices now audible, commands shouted in a foreign tongue, harsh consonants carrying across the spring air, words he did not understand, but whose meaning was clear: advance, take the bridge, cross the water, continue the march. His heart beat faster, as hearts do, yet his hands remained steady, training taking over, the body remembering what it has been taught, even when fear whispers in the ear. The first shapes appeared, figures moving between trees, uniforms darker than his own, 200 men, perhaps more, an impossible number, a force that could not be stopped, should not be resisted, by any reasonable calculation. Yet here stood the arithmetic of courage, which calculates differently, where one man in the right position, with the right resolve, might equal something more than one, might become, in that moment, immovable. They came closer, confident, as well they might be, 200 against one, the outcome certain, the bridge as good as taken, just a matter of time, of walking across, of continuing onward. But he did not leave, did not retreat, did not calculate the odds or question the order or wonder why it had to be him. He simply remained. And the water below kept flowing, steady, eternal, indifferent, as it had always flowed, as it would always flow, whether men crossed above it, or fought above it, or died above it. The first shot split the silence, sharp, final, a sound that cannot be taken back. It echoed off the stone, off the water, off the trees, spreading outward in rings of sound, announcing that this bridge, this crossing, this simple span of stone, would not be given freely. The enemy column halted, surprised, calculating, adjusting to this unexpected resistance, this single obstacle where none should exist. Officers shouted, men took cover, the confident advance became cautious, became tactical, became a problem to be solved rather than a path to be walked. And he fired again, and again, not frantically, not wildly, but with the measured pace of a man who knows each bullet must count, must mean something, must by seconds that accumulate into minutes. The sun climbed higher in the sky, marking the passage of time with its slow arc across the blue expanse above. They tried to rush him, waves of men surging forward, 2, 3, 4 at a time, using their numbers, their advantage, the simple mathematics of overwhelming force. But the bridge was narrow, funneling them, creating a choke point where numbers meant less than position, where one man with clear sight and steady aim could hold what should not be held. He fired until his first magazine emptied, then reloaded, the motion practiced, automatic, hands knowing their work without thought, muscle memory older than words. The enemy pulled back, regrouped, tried again, and again. Each attempt met with the same patient resistance, the same measured response, the same impossible defiance. Hours passed, though who could count them, time losing its usual measure, becoming instead a sequence of moments: reload, aim, fire, breathe, reload, aim, fire, breathe. The stone around him bore the marks of returned fire, chips and gouges, scars in the ancient masonry, the bridge itself wounded, yet still standing, still serving its purpose, still holding. His water canteen grew lighter, his ammunition counted down, resources finite, time bought at the price of cartridges, of sweat, of unwavering focus. They tried to flank him, sending men to find another crossing, but the river here ran deep and fast, and crossing it would take time he was supposed to prevent them from having. So he held, and the day stretched, and the sun peaked, and began its slow descent toward the western horizon. His commanding officers, miles away now, must have wondered if he still lived, if the bridge still stood, if their impossible order had been possible after all. But they could hear, faint in the distance, the irregular crack of rifle fire, the sound of resistance, the sound of one man saying, "No," to 200, saying, "Not yet," to the inevitable, saying, "Here I stand," to history. The enemy grew frustrated, then angry, then grudgingly respectful. What manner of man holds alone, against so many, for so long, with no hope of reinforcement, no promise of rescue, no reward but duty itself? They could have waited him out, could have bypassed him entirely, found another bridge, another route, but pride enters into these equations, and stubbornness, and the simple fact that this one man had become a symbol, a challenge, a problem that demanded solving. So they kept trying, and he kept holding, and the afternoon wore on, shadows lengthening, the light changing, gold replacing blue, as days do when they begin their transition toward evening. And still, beneath everything, the water flowed, patient, endless, knowing that all things pass, all resistance ends, all men must eventually rest. Yet for this day, for these hours, one man stood. The light began to change, as it always does, imperceptibly at first, then undeniably, the sun lowering itself toward the horizon, painting the world in shades of amber and rose. His rifle grew hot, then cooler, then hot again with use, the metal speaking of its service, of rounds fired, of purpose sustained through the long hours. Ammunition ran lower, magazines counted not by how many remained, but by how few, each bullet becoming more precious, more carefully aimed, more deliberately spent. The enemy's attacks grew less frequent, not from mercy, but from tactical reassessment, from the growing awareness that this crossing, this single point, would not fall easily, would not fall cheaply. In the distance behind him, his comrades had made their retreat, successfully withdrawing to new positions, regrouping their forces, living to see another day, because one man had given them the gift of time. But he did not know this, could not know this, fought on in the uncertainty that is the soldier's constant companion, faith without confirmation, duty without immediate reward. His body ached now, hours of tension, of firing, of maintaining readiness, taking their toll, muscles speaking their complaints, thirst becoming more than mere discomfort, becoming a presence, a companion. Yet the bridge still stood, and he still stood upon it, diminished perhaps, reduced certainly, but unbroken, still an obstacle, still a defender, still buying seconds with determination. The sky deepened its colors, that magical hour when day has not quite surrendered to night, when the world exists in transition, in that liminal space between states, beautiful, fragile, temporary. Birds called their evening songs, settling into trees for the night, their day's work complete, their small lives continuing their patterns. War or no war, they had nests to return to, young to feed, the eternal rhythms of life continuing. And then, faint at first, growing clearer, a new sound, different from the enemy's advance, familiar, welcome, the sound of friendlies, of reinforcement, of the relief column arriving at last. Voices calling in his own language, words of encouragement, of surprise that he still held, of admiration for what he had done, for what he had been, for those long hours, alone but not broken. The enemy, hearing this new force, recognizing that the moment had passed, the bridge now truly lost to them, began their own withdrawal, fading back into the gathering dusk, leaving the crossing held, the position maintained, the mission, somehow, impossibly, accomplished. He lowered his rifle then, slowly, as if unsure the action was truly over, hands shaking now with released tension, with exhaustion finally acknowledged, with the body's demand for rest long deferred. His fellow soldiers reached him, gathered around him, speaking words he barely heard through the ringing in his ears, the fog of fatigue, the stunned realization that he had survived, that it was over, that he could stop now. They helped him back, away from the bridge, toward safety, toward rest, his legs uncertain now, step by step, leaving behind that span of stone that had been the entire world for so many hours. Behind him, the bridge stood silent, scarred but intact, ordinary stone, ordinary water flowing beneath, yet now something more, now a place where courage had stood, where one became many through sheer resolve, where history had paused and taken note. The stars began emerging, one by one, in the darkening sky, the same stars that shone on peaceful homes, on farms and villages, on mothers and sweethearts, on a world continuing beyond this bridge, beyond this day. And as night fell gently, finally, mercifully, the bridge kept its silent watch over water that kept flowing toward tomorrow. In the days that followed, the story spread, as stories do in wartime, passed from soldier to soldier, from unit to unit, growing perhaps in the telling, though the truth needed little embellishment. 200 men, or more, held by one, 4 hours that saved countless others, a feat that defied logic, that challenged probability, that reminded everyone who heard it why they fought, what courage meant, what duty could require. The soldier himself, once returned to his unit, to normalcy, to the ordinary rhythm of military life, found himself uncomfortable with the tension, with questions, with the title of hero that others wished to bestow. He had simply done what was asked, he would say, what any man in his position would have done, though everyone knew this was not quite true, that many would have withdrawn, would have calculated the odds, would have chosen survival over sacrifice. But such is the way of true courage. It sees itself as ordinary, as merely doing what must be done, without calculation, without consideration of cost, simply responding to the moment's demand. Official recognition came, medals pinned to uniform, citations read in formal tones, words attempting to capture what words can never quite capture, the mathematics of moral courage, the geometry of standing alone. Yet perhaps the greater recognition came quieter, in the eyes of fellow soldiers who knew, who understood, who had themselves stood in dangerous places, who recognized in him something of what they hoped they might be, if called upon, if tested. The war continued, as wars do, sweeping across landscapes, consuming lives, writing history in blood and sacrifice, and he continued with it, one soldier among many, distinguished now, but still serving, still present, still doing what soldiers do. Years later, when the war finally ended, when men returned to homes, to farms, to ordinary lives that seemed both familiar and strange after so much time away, the bridge remained. Stone endures, even when scarred, even when marked by history's violence. It serves its purpose, connecting shores, allowing passage, bearing the weight of normal life, of farmers with produce, of children walking to school, of lovers meeting in the middle, as lovers do on bridges. Few who crossed it knew its story, knew that here, on this unremarkable span, one man had held impossible ground, had bought time measured in minutes and bullets, had written his name into the small, permanent ink of military history. The soldier himself grew older, as we all do, time's steady advance more unstoppable than any army, more inevitable than any battle, and with age came perspective, perhaps peace, perhaps understanding. He was not unique, he would insist in later years. War produces countless acts of courage, most witnessed by none, most recorded nowhere, most forgotten before they can be remembered. His had simply, through chance, through circumstance, become known. But those who study such things, who examine the mathematics of military action, who calculate what is possible and what is not, they still pause at this story, still wonder at it, still use it to teach what courage means. Not the reckless courage of charging forward, but the steadfast courage of holding ground, of remaining when withdrawal makes sense, of doing what must be done, because someone must do it, and you are there, and the moment has arrived, and you are equal to it. The bridge stands still, somewhere in Belgium, crossing water that flows as it always has, serving its purpose, connecting, allowing passage, ordinary stone, extraordinary history. And if you crossed it today, in the gentle afternoon light, with birds singing, and water flowing, and the world at peace, you might pause, just for a moment, and remember that here, once, courage stood alone, and did not yield. And so, dear listener, our story ends, as all stories must. Let yourself rest now, feeling the comfort around you, knowing that courage comes in many forms, sometimes loud, but often quiet, sometimes celebrated, but often private, always there when needed, always possible, always human. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and drift toward sleep, knowing that tomorrow will come, as it always does, bringing with it new chances, new moments, new opportunities to be, in our own small ways, equal to what is asked of us. Sleep well, rest deeply, and may your dreams be peaceful. Good night.